This is Oft Off Topic, a show where two men with the attention spans of a squirrel try and fail to stay on topic with today's subject. Where will their oral meanderings take us? Well, stick around and listen, because today's Oft Off Topic is the Diablo series. With Diablo IV about to be released, we thought it would be fun to do a dive into the history of Diablo. Nate, what do you know about Diablo?
I know that my friends all loved it, and I never played it. Not at least the first one. I never played the first one. I did pick up the second one. I think a buddy of mine had a copy. He had a pirated copy. He's like, "Here you go." I'm like, "Cool." And I loaded it up, and I played it for a minute, but just I don't know. I didn't know what to expect, and it was just. I just remember running around and like random things happening, me shooting things. Like, yeah,
and you're like, "Hey, this would be fun if I had people to play with."
Yeah. I mean, loot was dropping, but I didn't know what they did. And at that time, I wasn't a gamer who was into loot, like the loot hunting.
Yeah.
I think the video games. When was this? When the Diablo 2 came out?
Diablo 1 came out in 97, 98, and Diablo 2 came out in 99, 2000.
Yeah, so I can't remember. It'd be great if I have like a list of games that came out about that time, but I was playing other games, and that didn't click with me. Diablo 3 came out. I actually worked at a GameStop, and while it came out, and I actually got it. I was like, everyone, I really need to give this a try. And I played a little bit, and it didn't really do it for me. Though I will say, the most fun I had was when we got together on PlayStation and played it.
Yep,
like, that was pretty cool.
That was my best memories of playing Diablo 3. Because other than that, I was kind of on it. But we'll get into that a little bit more later.
Yeah, my favorite character was like the expansion, like the Necromancer. Because that Necromancer was awesome. He was a total cheap, though. I mean, in my opinion,
you could just summon an army of skeletons, and you could have like Thorn Shield on you and just march through things.
Even his basic attack was just overpowered. You could, once you level the thing up, you could just stand in one place, and you're murdering people even before they get close to you.
Yep.
They don't have an
flinging
opportunity
bone spears across the screen.
Yeah, I mean, now of course, it's hard, so that doesn't necessarily hold off 1,000 of them when they're coming at you. But if you're walking through and you got some low level mobs coming at you, they're dead before they even are a slight threat.
Absolutely. And if they get close enough to you, you can just throw an army of skeleton children at them from the graveyard you just summoned.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, he was.
Have you ever noticed it's always adult skeletons that get summoned in these games? You never wind up with like a little kid just popping out of the ground or whatever.
Yeah, you think
the toddler just runs around with like a stick, but completely useless.
The only game that had the cojones to do it that I've ever seen. I may be wrong. I'm sure there's indie games out there who did it too, but the only mainstream AAA game I've ever seen to do that was Dead Space.
I played it, but I don't remember that one. The very first Dead Space?
Yeah, I mean, they were in the first Dead Space, but they were definitely in the second Dead Space.
Gotcha.
Were they in the first Dead Space? I'm not sure now. But they were definitely the second one. Babies. They were like explosives. So you had babies that crawled on the ground. They were dead. And they would come at you from like the walls and stuff, and they would explode. And then there was slightly more, they were like toddlers, that a little older baby, whatever, and they would come out, they're like spider people, they come out. And then like adolescents, like small, let's say 9-10-year-old children, they were kind of like goblins and just rush at you with claws. So I'm like, you know what, good on you. And the way they introduced that too is you roll up on this window of a nursery, and you see this woman who's clearly crazy, and she's like calling over a baby who's clearly dead, and she's like, "Come here, baby, come to mama," and then he explodes, killing her. She's splattered everywhere. Basically, that's showing you, hey, babies are bombs. But it's like, dude, this is messed up. I'm here for it.
That would be a cool punk band name. Babies Are Bombs.
Babies are bombs.
Yep. Just have like the album cover being like babies being dropped out of a B-52 bomber.
I'm just thinking about the opposite of Toys R Us. Toys R Us and babies are bombs. That was hated competitor.
Babies are bombs made another run at Toys R Us. Suicide bombings left and right. I played Diablo 1 actually quite a bit back in the day. I was really into it. And then I played Diablo 2 even more because I was even more into that. And kind of the same thing with Diablo 3. It's like, hey, this is all right. It's fun to play with people, but So our story begins with a young man in the early 1980s named David Brevik. He is the eventual creator of Diablo and the hero of our story. He was a big PC gamer in youth, enjoying the finest text-based and ASCII art games. ASCII? I'm not sure how to pronounce that. You know which games I'm talking about back in the day, where you're basically piloting little letters
Yeah.
around. Yep.
ASCII.
It's like I'm an ampersand and I'm going to
Yeah,
war.
Yep.
Yeah,
I didn't get those
an
games.
interesting time back then.
Those type of games, those text ones, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, some of them were text where you're actually like reading a book, almost like a choose your own adventure. And then there's other ones where like it was basically think of almost like Zelda, but the levels were made out of letters. Like the walls were letters, and your character was like a little symbol just running around, and it was like playing a game inside of a Word document or a spreadsheet or Excel.
I played a few of those.
Yeah, they were hot back in the day, back when graphics.
It wasn't my thing. Like that kind of game was definitely not my thing. So, but I had friends who had it, but that wasn't my thing.
Yeah, they're also a little before our time ish, kind of. Yeah, choose your own adventure style stories were around a little bit more during our youth. They had some of those on the NES as well, like Uninvited and Shadowgate.
Yeah, I didn't play those either.
Yeah, they were fun.
That was not the closest I got to choose your own adventure type things was the books.
Yeah.
Like
those things were great. Get to go to your Scholastic book fair and walk out with a bunch of those.
Well, you ever play the choose your own adventure books?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. You'd go to page this.
Scholastic book fair, where you go there and you buy them for like $1 or whatever.
Oh, I didn't do that.
Oh, you never had a Scholastic book fair at your school?
Oh, we did. I just never. I mean, I didn't get any of those. I also had comics.
We never had comics at ours. I don't think
we did.
Really? I could have sworn ours was just like. Choose Your Own Adventure was like the most action or fun books they had. Everything else was kind of like learning. Zoo books and such.
Like, well, maybe it wasn't called Scholastic Book Fair. It was just a book fair. Yeah, because the book fairs they bring whatever. Like Ella's come out from her book fair and bring in like Pokemon books. Yeah, she bring home. She brought home one book. I'm like, Ella, you need to bring a book we can read together. This is not a book we can read together.
It's just a Pokemon compendium.
Yeah, it really was. Now it turned out we actually.
This Pokemon comes from the Kanto region.
It's gotten kind of ripped up now, but like sometimes when we feel like reading, we'll lay down, we'll like do 15 minutes just going through and like looking at a Pokemon, talking about them, and basically it's me like. Primarily is me just going through and shitting on Pokemon, but she loves it. I mean, we basically go through like tear apart the logic behind them, and it's pretty fun. I mean, she's into it. It's not like she's like, no, don't say that about so and so.
There's no way a Drifloon could pick up a small child and whisk him off to the Neverland like that.
I mean, some of them are like some of those backstories, dude, are dark.
Yeah, so, yes, they are.
My favorite being, I think, probably the most popular one is that one with a skull for a head, our skull mask on it. Like that's a skull of his dead mother.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
yep. The Cubone, I think, something along those lines. Yeah,
but then you think about like how that would work because that means they can only have one child because one child gets the mom's head bone. You don't have a bunch of head bones. You have one. So if they have siblings, are they not wearing skulls? Are they stealing?
The siblings, when it comes time to kill their mother, the siblings all get together and have a battle royale, and whichever one wins that, like,
they don't mention that part, like the culling.
Yeah, exactly.
The strongest one gets the mother's skull.
Yep, and the ones that don't win that battle royale just walk around like missing limbs, eyes gouged out, but no skull on their face.
The Untouchables. They're like inside the Pokemon. They're like in the back alleys. When the camera usually passes of a movie, you see the the dregs in the background, huddled in the shadows. It's them.
Yep. And then their leader is the one with the skull, the toughest of them all. I was able to take down all of you and take down Mother. And I feasted on her flesh. Gave me strength.
He's saying this at the dinner table with someone else next to him. He's like, we know we all did that. We all have masks on. We all killed our mom. We all did that. Will you please shut up? I mean, like all
Your
of us.
Your mom was senile and enfeebled when you took her down. It wasn't even that hard. She fell down the stairs running from you. You didn't do anything special.
We could all say this. Mark, down there. See Mark over there? You should hear his story. It is real fucked up. But you, sir, you are nothing special.
You're nothing special. His mom just would not die.
I mean, he had to beat her to death for a while. And she did not go quietly. She pled the whole way.
Yes, the dark world of Pokemon, as we see it. Yeah, that's what makes it interesting, though. Makes it fun, full of lore that we can play with.
Very true.
So David Brevko was a huge fan of those text-based and ASCII games, and he also enjoyed the old role-playing games like Might and Magic, Wizardry, and Ultima, those old hardcore old school PC games. which I actually played all those games on the NES, which are very, very stripped down versions of the PC versions. Still fun, but still way more advanced than anything the NES had at the time. I believe the Ultimate game actually had like day-night cycles, which was brand new for back then on the NES.
I'm so upset I missed all that. You know, like people always talk about, Ultimate. I'm like, okay, but I don't know. I missed all that.
They were very, very hard. A lot of them actually had permadeath too. So you'd be plodding along with your favorite character, and all of a sudden they'd just get hit with a critical attack and dead. Favorite character gone. Scrubbed from existence. No
more. Me so mad.
Oh, it was yeah. The worst one was Might and Magic, because I got really far into that in the NES and had a really good group going. And then the actual save game battery inside the cartridge died, and it couldn't save games anymore.
Oh no!
Yeah, I'd fire it up, and it'd hold on to a save sometimes like overnight, but then I'd fire it up eventually, and it'd be like, "Your game is gone." Banana.
Was that the noise it made?
Yep. Womp, womp, womp.
That would be funny if they programmed that. If they programmed to like those NES cartridges that once the battery died, like, okay, once the battery died, it triggered something else that would literally go womp, womp, womp.
That literally used just the last bit of battery power to play that sound and then delete your save. It's like you could have transferred your save, but we decided to use this cute little womp, womp, womp at the end. Sort of like the old Motorola Razr phones, when they'd be like at 5% battery, they would just light up like a Christmas tree and play music.
It's like, dude, you could have used that to stay on longer.
Right? It's like, don't do that. We're trying to nurse every last little electron coming out of that battery. Well, that's cool. Brevik daydreamed about the games he would love to make and then transferred these ideas to papers via crudely drawn stick figures, exactly as I did back in school. That was kind of my thing, is I'd just be like, what would I like as a game? Then I'd draw like really crude 2D levels. A lot of them were like 2D role-playing games, sort of like Zelda 2.
Yeah, I think I did that. Like on my talk about the borders, I always had like a little border hole. I always had a whole drama. Do like a obstacle course and things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or sometimes you got really fancy, do a flip book.
Or I have tanks. Draw tanks like there's a war.
Mortar shells shooting over stuff, shooting over the words on your paper onto the other side. Be like, we're the whole side of the paper, and we're going after the margin side of the paper. Take that.
Go Holes.
Yeah, go Holes. The fighting 3-punch. Woo!
Yay.
So, as he was doodling these ideas back in school, somebody gave him something that would change his life forever. Something that made him go, hey, I should do this for a living. Remember the National Enquirer, Nate? That tabloid that we saw in supermarkets that gave us something to read while our parents paid for groceries?
I do. They used to be fun.
Yeah. That's the National Enquirer was mainly celebrity stuff. It was a Weekly World News that did Batboy and all that.
I get that, but it used to be fun. Like, okay, this is a Batboy, sure, it's ridiculous. But now you walk by one, it's always like, Joe Biden blew fucking
Santa Claus in
front of Claus shot him in the face. And I mean, it's just it's so. I mean, they still do have their occasional, like, I don't know, Dick Van Dyke rose from the grave.
Yeah,
but
I don't think Dick Van Dyke's dead though.
Then he rose from the grave.
That is true. Alive. He's died a few times. He just keeps on coming back. Pops out of a random chimney.
No, there are chimneys left unswept. I must dance and sing as I go up.
I must pick up this awful Cockneyed accent one more time and take the mantle of.
You know what's terrible? I didn't realize that was an awful Cockney accent until someone mentioned it. One day, because I mean, I don't think about Mary Poppins when I watched that as a kid, so I just like, oh, okay, British, sure, whatever. But then someone's like, oh yeah, like his awful accent. I'm like, awful accent, was it? And I go back and listen, like, oh yeah.
Was it awful? Because I've always heard that too, and like you, I never really realized it was awful. But then all of a sudden, I don't know, like 10 years ago, I started hearing people talk about it as one of the worst accents ever, and I was like, well, I never bothered to check in on it.
If you go back and like set aside your youthful innocence, and you go, okay, what kind of now that you can hear regular English accents, it's like, okay, it's not good. It's pretty bad. I mean, I don't know, like it's almost a mocking when he's going through. But he's being genuine. You can tell he's trying. Like
it could come across as, look at me do your accents, you stupid Cockneys.
he is doing his darndest. So good on him. I salute the effort.
It was one of those things, like a really bad accent, like how a white dude would try to do an Asian accent back then.
Yeah.
It was like, well, I mean, that's an attempt for the time, but
I almost want to say it was racist like that, but it's not racist. They're all white, so it's not racist. But it's it's I don't know, nationalist or
bigoted,
whatever it is. Yeah, why not?
Maybe stereotyped,
but it wasn't. It wasn't. I am not saying it was.
Yeah, there was not maliciousness in his voice, or was there?
I truly believe he. I think he. From what I understand, Dick Van Dyke's a pretty good dude. So I've never heard anything negative about him. Now,
is that why he keeps coming back from the grave? Is because he has to come back and spread his goodness?
We might find out later on after his death he was a monster. But as it stands right now, I will say that I haven't heard anything bad about him.
Him and Betty White had their concentration camps of fans that they would torture.
It's like
both of them walking around like Nazi SS uniforms.
I can't get up in the morning without a cup of blood, fresh blood.
It sustains me.
From a virgin. It only has to be the first time drawing. I can't draw from the same person twice. So we kill that person and we bring in the other ends.
True evil. So, along with bringing Dick Van Dyke back from the dead, we can actually thank the National Enquirer for giving us Diablo, believe it or not. Yes, the whole game series was kind of came about because of the National Enquirer. Why? Because they did an article in the early 80s on Ultima developer Richard Garriott and the fact that while in college he made the Ultima games and netted a cool $100,000 while doing it before he even graduated. Now, this was important because before this article, nobody thought making video games was anything economically viable. Everybody was just like, hey, this is just like a weird hobby of little nerds hiding in their basements and no good money can come out of it. The big games like, Donkey Kong and Pac-Man and the such, those were big teams and the developers pocketed all the money, Atari, Nintendo.
Well,
so on and so
was
forth.
It a lie? Because it was a National Enquirer, so...
Nope, it was real.
Okay, so...
Actually, the National Enquirer has broken quite a few stories. Like legit stories.
I remember that. I remember they were the one who caught oh man, I'm blanking on it. He was for a minute front runner for president. John Owers.
Oh yeah, they did that. They also broke the Bill Cosby story.
Did they?
Yeah, well, they kind of brought it to light. Let's see, 2005, 9 years before any other publication, they were like, "Hey, Bill Cosby's not good to women."
Well, it was that. I think the thing that really brought the spotlight was that one comedian who was talking about Bill Cosby, and everyone was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, he's a monster." But you could be right about the Enquirer too. I mean, I'm not saying that was the only thing. The National Enquirer thing was like, I had heard that bit of it, but I believe it.
Yeah, they were also the ones that discovered Enos Cosby's killer when Bill Cosby's kid died. Hey, you think Bill Cosby's kid got killed as retaliation for him being a rapist? Seems unlikely, but
it does seem likely.
We could run with that theory.
I do not agree with putting my name to that conspiracy theory.
In theory, I have heard through the grapevine. Yeah, they also broke Hulk Hogan's racist rant, Bob Dole's cheating scandal, Rush Limbaugh's OxyContin addiction. Do you know what the difference is between a tabloid and a regular news outlet? I do.
Okay. I want to guess, but I'm not gonna.
Okay. Basically, a tabloid is allowed to pay people for their stories, pay people to interview them. Regular news story is supposed to, it's supposed to be like journalistic integrity. So like ABC, NBC, if you want to tell their story to them, they're not going to give you any money. But tabloids, they have no such scruples. They will gladly give you $100,000 so they can have exclusivity to your story.
Neat. I did not know that.
Yep. So there you go. That's actually how some of the recent Donald Trump scandals got buried. Donald Trump actually got with the head of the Enquirer, and he was like, "Hey, buy up all these stories and then just snuff them for me." And they're like,
he had a dumb name too. Like, was it Crapper?
It was something like that.
It was something like that.
William Kidkill.
No, I think it was. I think
Johnny
it was
Exploding Babies.
Let's see. Enquirer. I gotta know. Pecker. His name
Pecker.
Pecker. Yes. David Pecker.
Very good. Very, very
because Crapper was actually a name. Like that was those toilets were named Crappers after it's just
John Crapper or Thomas Crapper. I don't remember which one it is.
I mean, I get it. Like I guess about okay, that's my family. We made toilets, so I'll take it. But just forevermore. Your company will be forgotten. Your family will fall to the ways of, whatever. But your name will still live on as meaning a toilet.
Yeah. This is the product I'm so proud of. I want my name to be associated with that forever. Le crapin.
Forever.
I sent you actually a picture. I don't know if you can see it in the voice channel text. It's the actual article of Richard Garriott looking very excited sitting in front of a computer.
No, there it is.
Okay, there we go. That's the chat.
Student 21 makes $100,000 a year creating video games.
Yep.
Neat.
Yeah, and he's very excited. I would be too if I was making $100,000 back in the early 1980s.
I don't know.
Lord.
Is that excited or is that like, I'm going to eat your skull?
Ooh. I like that better. You want to know how you get the ideas for this and the strength and knowledge? I eat souls.
If I was him, I'd be upset. It's like,
he's just like about to that's right before he unhinges his jaw and just goes straight at your face.
Dude, I would be legit upset if they posted that. Like, okay, we have an article, great. They put the article up. Like, really? You took a bunch of pictures. You could have used any of the other ones.
I had to sit there for 45 minutes while you snapped pictures, and that's what you picked.
The rebuttal could be like, yes, and that's the best one.
Right? They just start showing you all the other pictures. You're like, oh, God. Oh, God, those are all worse and worse.
Whoa. Okay.
Is my schlong out in that picture? Yeah, you just pulled it out. We don't know why. We actually asked you 3 times to put it away. And you're like, nope, needs to breathe.
I don't know how you could forget that.
Yeah. It was a long, long day. So suddenly seeing that $100,000 could be given to somebody who could just make a really good game, David Brevik said to himself, David, we should go to school and learn how to make video games because that could make us some money and it's something we'd like to do. So he graduated high school and headed out west to develop games, attending the California State University in Chico, California, where he would study near Mount Diablo. We might come back to that little tidbit later, Nate.
You think?
Yeah.
On a podcast about Diablo, we might circle back around and talk about the mountain called Diablo.
Yeah, we might. Now, don't get your hopes up. Now, watch. I'm going to completely skip that paragraph later on.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So he continued learning, studying, getting better at his craft at California State University, doodling more notes and coming up with more ideas, and eventually graduating college, where he went straight into the exciting industry of clip art programs. Remember those, Nate? Back when you'd have to go be like, hey, I want some images, some PNGs or GIFs. I'm going to go spend anywhere between $1.99 to $100 on a CD full of images.
Yay. No, I never did that.
You never did that?
Nope.
No. I did it a few times working on websites back in the day because it was back then there wasn't really like a Google image search for you just to go through and just download images left and right. Or if you did, it's
mine were
56K
image-less.
Yeah.
Lacking images.
Lacking visual excitement. But yeah, and the problem with those two is it'd be like, you get 100,000 images in this. But of course, several thousand would just be various fonts of the alphabet. Or a whole lot of different colors and be like, here's a strip of a color. Make yourself a background.
Oh, yeah. Back in the old days.
Yeah.
One thing about those clip arts, though, I will say, I've noticed them on some local businesses or I'm like, really, straight up just took some of those little figures. Like, okay, it's a stick figure man dancing. I don't know if you know which one I'm talking about, but it's that one. And they just use that on the side of a building. It's like, you're not even trying.
Yeah.
We all see that.
Yeah, we all see the plagiarism happening here. We all get what's happening. Anyways, the exciting world of clip art software. That actually didn't go very far for him. In fact, the company went under shortly after Brevik started working there, but this was a good opportunity for him to do some networking, get some friends and coworkers with some like-minded ideas, and go off and found their own game studio. Thus, in 1993, Condor Game Studios was born. They went out doing a little side gigs here and there. First couple they had was working for Acclaim Entertainment in the form of making a couple NFL quarterback club games for the legendary Game Boy and the battery-munching Game Gear. I almost got a Game Gear. I really wanted one back in the day because it was colorful. Yeah, I'm glad we didn't though because the battery life on those things was awful.
I know, but still, at least it's the novelty of having one.
Yeah,
but, I mean,
it would have been better for the Game Boy because I remember the Game Boy batteries lasting forever, but Game Gear, 6 AA batteries would only last between 3 to 5 hours.
Oh, that's terrible.
That is terrible.
That's really, really bad.
That's really, really bad. That would have been very expensive for us to game.
True.
Yeah. And
I mean, I didn't really have a Game Boy until
then.
like I had one Game Boy. I had Game Boy Advance. So I didn't have a Game Boy until Game Boy Advance. Man, I was so mad. I was moving to my dad's place. I'm moving from Washington to here, and I had like my Game Boy Advance. I sat down on the street, like on the sidewalk, and I went in. Like I rushed in. I was moving stuff inside the house. I came back. It was gone. I mean, of course it was because I was sat on the fucking sidewalk. But still,
Yeah.
that was annoying.
You might as well put a take me sign on top of it.
Yeah, it was my fault. I mean, it was their fault for stealing it, but I should have known better.
But it takes 2 to steal, 1 to let them in, 1 to do it.
Right.
But yeah, that's a bummer. I'm sure you walk down and you're like, my Game Boy will be right where I left it. Oh, sad.
Well, honestly, it didn't even register. Like, it was gone. It didn't register till later because I did come out looking for it.
Otherwise, you would turn around and rushed over and beat the first person you saw, assuming they had it.
Yeah,
Come here, old lady.
Yeah, I just put it inside, and it's like, I was like, where's my Game Boy? And I looked around, then I looked in the box I had put it in. I was like, I know what happened. So
it took a hike. It ran off with somebody else. It found a better love than it had with me.
No, but eventually I got a better one. I mean, the one I got, it was the Game Boy Advance that didn't have any backlighting, and so it had 2 contraptions on there. It had a contraption that made you put it over the screen that kind of made the screen look bigger, and then there was a light on that, so you could see the screen.
Kind of like how the original Game Boy had, in a way, one of those add-ons.
Yeah, because the early Game Boy Advances, they didn't light up. So
yeah, I didn't know that. I would assume the early Game Boy Advances had backlit screens.
Nope, they did not. They
Shame on them.
They didn't start going backlit till the flip ones. Oh,
like the little SP, I think it was called. No, that's not right.
No, the SP was that was the DS. I'm not sure. I don't know what they call it. There's an official one, but yeah, you know what
I'm talking about. A little silver guy that flipped open.
Yeah, for the Game Boy Advance.
Yeah, was that Game Boy Advance?
No, that was DS. I thought the SP title, Game Boy Advance.
Game Boy Advance SP.
I could be getting my information.
Yep, Game Boy Advance SP. There, flip close SP.
Yeah, okay. Then you're right. I don't know. I was thinking for some reason I was thinking it was the DS, but you're right.
It looks like a little DS.
Yeah, but that's what I had. That's the one that actually lit up because the one before that did not.
The one that kind of looked like a Game Gear.
Yeah, I guess the flat, the longer flat one. Yes. Yeah. Those. I was disappointed.
Disappointed in the Game Gear or Game Boy?
Game Boy Advance? No, I mean I was disappointed in just the fact that I had to. I mean, seriously, dude, it was a contraption. Like it was not noticeable. It was this big old block on your hand because you have the Game Boy Advance and then you'd have the whole magnifying / light up thing on top of that. I mean, to be fair,
modular setup.
Yeah,
eventually comes out to like 10 times its original size.
I mean, for as bulky as it would, it folded up pretty good. So it actually did kind of like compact, but it still was pretty bulky. It wasn't something you just toss in your pocket.
Yeah, I could imagine that. Unless you wanted to disassemble the entire thing every single time.
No disassemble.
No disassemble. Johnny Five alive.
No, Stephanie.
What are you doing, Stephanie?
I haven't seen that movie forever, and I kind of want to, and I kind of like to show my kids it, but at the same time, there's a white man dressed as an Indian man.
Yeah, which I didn't think of anything of it back in the day. In fact, I didn't even realize he wasn't an Indian until like a few years ago, and people were like, "Hey, remember this racist role?" I'm like, that dude wasn't an Indian?
Dude, that's terrible, but I didn't know he wasn't Indian either.
Right.
Until later on, I saw him in...
he sounded like a poo. Of course he's an Indian. That's what they all sound like.
When I see him, what was that movie? Hackers. I saw him in Hackers. And I was like, wait, is he white? He looks a lot whiter than I remember.
Is that Indian dude in whiteface having an American accent? That's horribly racist. I remember that movie being all right, though.
What?
Johnny Five, Short Circuit,
yeah,
the first one. I remember the second one I didn't like because they made him gold at the end. And I thought that was really stupid. I don't know why I thought it was stupid.
I'll get you. I mean, I don't know if that would change my thoughts on the movie, stupid, but it was stupid.
Yeah.
And I like how
it just made him look like he'd work at a Persian strip club after that being all.
And of course, the only returning main character is the racist Indian dude.
Yeah. The character you loved so much, we had to bring him back.
I mean, but to be fair, he was the best character on that show or the movie. So, I mean, arguably even better than Johnny Five. Johnny Five was fine, but that dude was legit funny. Yeah. So, again, I acknowledge shouldn't have been played by a white guy, but still,
this is what will fall under a guilty pleasure.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where you just shrug and go, "It was the '80s."
Yeah, times were different back then. We were able to use words like that, and
it doesn't excuse a lot of stuff. I'm not gonna sit here and go, "Oh, it's the '80s, so it's all okay." But I just get acknowledged, like, okay, it was fucked up then, it was fucked up now, but it was the '80s.
Yeah, so, at least progress is being made. It feels like.
Yeah.
So after doing some NFL quarterback club games for the Game Boy and Game Gear, Acclaim gave Condor a gig at developing Justice League Task Force, a fighting game for the Sega Genesis. Things were going. It was just standard 2D game, like all fighters at the time. It kind of looked like Eternal Champions from the screenshots I saw, if you remember that, which maybe don't.
What game was that?
The game I'm talking about, Justice League Task Force, a fighting game.
Okay, sorry. I was trying to remember which one it was, and then I got lost. Yeah, so Justice League Task Force.
This would be mid-90s.
I've never played it because I didn't have a Genesis, but I remember seeing something about it.
Well, it actually was on the Super Nintendo. However, the thing was, Condor didn't know this. They went to show the game at the Consumer Electronics Show, let the public take a good look at it, and as they're displaying their Genesis version of the game, they looked across the floor and realized there is a completely different studio showing off a Super Nintendo version of Justice League Task Force. And they went over like, hey, this is interesting. And they looked, and the Super Nintendo crew looked at Genesis game and was like, well, that's interesting. Turns out Acclaim hired a second studio and told them to make the Justice League fighting game for the Super Nintendo, and didn't even tell them there's a Genesis one in progress either, in development.
Oh, so neither one of them stole it. They both got hired to do the same game.
Yep.
And they didn't know.
Yep. And none of them had either contact with either one, and they came out with a shockingly similar game.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah. So that actually gave both studios a good laugh. And they bonded over this moment, which would actually turn out to be a pretty important thing for David Brevik and Condor Studios, because the studio that was working on the Super Nintendo game was at the time known as Silicon and Synapse. Other games they did was Rock and Roll Racing and Three Vikings on the Super Nintendo. Both were excellent games, especially Three Vikings. It was a puzzle-style game, one of those where you had to alternate between three guys who had their own special set of skills to get through puzzles.
I'll take your word for it. Never played it.
Yeah, I don't think most people did. It wasn't exactly a big game.
Yeah, I don't even have even heard of it before, so.
It might have been on the PC as well. Silicon Synapses would become important to Condor Studios because shortly after this meeting, they would change their name to Blizzard and release a game called Warcraft.
Never heard of it.
Yep. Nah, nobody has either, really. I mean, Warcraft, it's kind of a small little indie kind of game. Yeah.
Indie, no one, just kind of.
Yeah. Not one person heard of it.
Forgotten.
Yeah. I remember they were talking about maybe doing an online thing about it, but that fizzled out because the internet never really caught on. Yeah. Right.
I love Warcraft. I mean, I went to a friend's house and played that. I mean, that's staying, honestly, that's a whole podcast by itself or two.
Oh, absolutely.
But
I started off with Warcraft 2 before 1. Which, I mean, they're kind of the same game. One is just a little more tweaked than the other. Oh, yeah, and they came out almost the exact same time. I think Warcraft 1 came out like 94, and Warcraft 2 came out like 95.
You know what? I think I did play Warcraft 2 first.
Most people played Warcraft 2 first.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever played the first Warcraft. But anyway, so the Warcraft 2, you'll click it on a sheep till it explodes. That was hilarious.
That was hilarious. I had forgotten about that.
I mean, I don't know. I like those games, but I'm not good at them.
Yeah, and I don't think those had difficulty sliders on them, really. Oh, yeah, they did. You can make the enemy smarter and dumber, or at least for multiplayer, you could.
Yeah, I'm not good at it.
Yeah, and those games can be intimidating sometimes, too, when you think you're doing good, and all of a sudden you just get mobbed by an army about 5 times your size, and you're like, what did I do wrong? There's no way this dude should have had that big of an army while I had like my 3 guys cutting wood still.
I can do okay if I get left alone long enough. I can build up my stuff, but I'm very much a turtle. I turtle, and so I just like basically focus on my defenses until finally I'm comfortable enough I can launch my army. But the problem is, since I'm never attacking them, they never really work on their like defense. They just kind of primarily work on their armies. I'm not taking any resources away from them, so. Here I am. I get mobbed by soldiers, and my defenses aren't good enough.
And eventually you look at your gold mine, you're like, uh-oh, there's nothing in there anymore. Where's all the other gold mines? Oh, they have them. Uh-oh.
Yeah. I also have the other tactic I use is like a virus. I'll send off a peon and a soldier, just send them off, like, go forth and start another colony somewhere else. And so then I'll have, if I can, I'll try to get on their land somewhere like they haven't taken over yet or have no sphere of influence, and start building a base there. So I have someone there. I mean, these all sound cool, like, oh wow, great strategies, but keep in mind I lose a lot. So I wouldn't bank on that strategy to being a real like good one.
You're like, this. I'm going in depth on the strategy I like to use. It was not successful, so I do not recommend copying it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I like playing those games, but I'm not patient enough to get good at them.
Yeah, and also some of them too, being patient is the worst thing to do on those games. Sometimes you just have to like build a quick army and rush people.
Yeah, and I don't know.
Yeah, you want to play for the long game, be like, I want this massive giant army before I go sending it out. And then next thing you know, some dude is just sending nothing but those little goblin sappers that explode when they hit things at you. Those things nonstop.
I mean, I don't know if it's still big, but in South Korea, they fill stadiums watching those people play. I mean, these people are professional.
They're like StarCraft. StarCraft is huge over there.
So yeah,
nowadays it's probably League of Legends.
I did switch to StarCraft, but I was basically referencing like that genre, but that specifically genre. Yeah, it's specifically StarCraft. I mean, oh my god, dude, there's like they're being
StarCraft was better than Warcraft in my opinion.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Yeah, the Warcraft. I mean, Warcraft really does shine on what's it came on like the MMO. But the game, I will give you that. The StarCraft is a lot more better. That's bad grammar, but I'll roll with it.
A lot more better.
Yeah.
It'd be more gooder than the others. But Warcraft 3 actually wasn't too bad either, but that one kind of had some interesting role-playing aspects to it too, where you'd actually get like a hero that you would talk to and you'd be like, I'm going to lead our guys through the forest. And you get little stories as you did it.
I don't really like the hero aspect of it. I mean, it was fine. I didn't hate it. But
I didn't really play it enough to get to form an opinion on the third one, because I literally played it just long enough to be like, hey, I should buy this eventually, and never did.
I've noticed that like a lot of people who really get into this stuff are also into the lore.
Yes,
and I'm not. Yeah, and that it definitely affects my like of StarCraft or Warcraft, because I don't know what's going on. All I know is I have an army and I'm killing the army over there. And since I don't care about the heroes and their stories, it doesn't affect me when one of them dies.
No, Grimlock the Orc's back. So?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I had a more deep connection to a character. I've told you a story before, but I'm going to say it for the podcast. It was that NES game. It was a GBA game. It was... Oh, man. It's that... It's not RTS, but it's the
Advanced Wars.
No,
one of those kind
it's
of games?
like Advanced Wars, but it's I'm blanking on it. Fantasy.
Final Fantasy Tactics.
No.
Oh.
Okay, damn it! I'm gonna have to look this up. This is driving me nuts. It is really, really driving me nuts. Huh. It's right there. I see everything about it. I just can't see the name, like the name. Fire Emblem. I needed Fire Emblem.
Okay.
Oh man, that was gonna kill me. Huh. So I decided to type in RTS GBA games, and if it wasn't on there, I was gonna just say, okay, obviously I switched universes at some point. I'm not where I thought I was. A Fire Emblem. So I played the most kind of emotional connection I had was it was so stupid. So I'm playing along. At some point, this like you can't see the characteristics, but I guess it's a princess runs into a random ass soldier, and the soldier's like, the princess goes, "Oh, Adam, what are you doing here?" And he's like, "Oh, you saw me here. I joined these bandits because my mom's sick." And she's like, "Oh my god, that sucks. Here, let me give you money for your mom." He's like, "Oh, cool. I'll join your side now." And I'm like, "Sweet." I just picked up a guy. That's weird. I didn't really, a whole interaction happened on the battlefield, and I got a new character. But then, so I finished that round. Well, the next round, I'm going through and I see a bad guy. Like he's like clearly the boss of the level. He's big too, with bunch of axes, and I sent a random soldier over to attack him to see how strong he was. And that's and that you know where this is going. The boss kills this random soldier, and as this random soldier's dying, it's the fucking dude. He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, my sick mother. I'm sorry, princess. I tried." And as you know, it's permadeath, so that dude's gone forever.
Yep.
I'm like, no. Not my random soldier. And I tried to reload it, and so I reloaded it, and when I couldn't get it back. It was too late. It just like
then
no
you realize
what
the strategy
did,
being like, "Hey kid, I know this is like your second day with training with us, but see that giant boss guy over there with the giant axes? Go over and see how tough he is. Just take a hit or two and come back and report. All right, go ahead."
The problem is I saved just before I attacked the big giant dude. Okay, so he was like not that far away from the big giant dude. So when I reloaded, even if I ran away from the big giant dude got me and killed me. So it was just well, he's gone. This sucks.
Well, at least he distracted him for one turn. That one turn was all that you needed to win the battle.
Well, not really, because there was no one else nearby. This guy was alone. He died screaming alone in a field.
So basically, you gave the boss a good warm up to kill.
Yeah, exactly. Because by the time anybody else came back to the boss was fully rested and totally fine.
Possibly even more amped up than before he was.
Right. I taste the blood today. I really work now.
As far as real-time strategy 2, the first one I ever played was Dune 2 on the PC. There was actually a Dune real-time strategy game before there was a Warcraft one. And it was done by Westwood Studios. The guys did Command and Conquer. But, you'd just go around harvesting spice, avoiding worms. That's pretty much all I remember of it. A lot of people think that that's actually like a knockoff of Warcraft, but they are wrong. It came out first.
Liars. Yes. All
of them. Liars. They must see the light. So because of Warcraft being the huge hit it was, Blizzard Studios had some newfound wealth to spend and wanted to use this money to finance other studios' projects. Since Condor made an impression with them at the Consumer Electronics Show, Blizzard gave them an old ring-a-ding-ding and invited them to come over and pitch them some ideas. So Brevik jumped at this opportunity because while they were working on the project for Acclaim, the Condor crew had dusted off his old notes from high school and college and were using those to make a basis for their next project. They wanted this project to be a single-player DOS game targeted towards a hardcore RPG player with turn-based permadeath, much like the aforementioned Wizardry games, Might and Magic, or even the, what were we just talking about, Fire Emblem. Because they like the idea of permadeath. They want something super stressful and plotting that would just completely make you think every move over and not do something stupid like sending a grunt out to test a boss power.
Well, I had never played permadeath games before. That was like a new thing for me. So I was like, whatever. I'll just,
You're like, oh my God, death is real. Hey, Grandma, guess what oh no.
Phoenix down.
I've seen the movies. All you got to do is just hit them with those little electronic paddles and they come back. Another plans they had for this game they're developing was expansion packs. Basically, like Magic the Gathering was really big at the time, and people were buying booster packs of cards, the extra little 5-6 cards to add to their deck. And they were thinking cashing in on that craze. And essentially it's just going to be like paid DLC, but little bite-sized things, like little armor sets, maybe a little new map here or there.
Horse armor.
Yeah, exactly. Horse armor. Great example, Nate. The internet blew up over that, I remember.
And now that's so dumb. Like everyone does it. It's like horse armor. What are they doing? Like, welcome to gaming.
Yeah, you and I saw the writing on the wall with that one. Like, oh well, here it goes. Yeah.
Because people bought it. It's like everyone.
If nobody had bought it and everybody just shamed them, then it probably wouldn't have taken off. Well, other places would have tried, but
oh no, and they needed to stay strong, but they didn't. Yeah. Everyone. I mean, I've got my own shame things. I bought. For Xbox Live, I bought Stormtrooper armor for my avatar, and it wasn't a lot of money, but a lot of buttheads like me spending that little bit of money.
Yeah, like, if everybody spends $1.50 once a month or whatever, then adds up in a hurry. Oh, that new Golem game that's supposedly awful or really bad. They actually have all sorts of DLC for it, and it's like $7 just for a few emotes, like idle emotes, and $9, I think, for the soundtrack and other just stupid little cosmetics that total up to about $25 if you wanted to buy them all.
Damn.
Yeah. Oh, one of the expansions is like $8 and allows the Elvish to sometimes speak in Elvish.
Yeah, that's dumb.
Yeah, that is totally dumb. Sadly, people
Yeah,
don't buy it.
I've seen some pretty harsh criticisms. I mean, all valid. You know,
Oh, yeah.
It's. I mean, I haven't seen anything like, well, I don't like this because he doesn't look exactly like Gollum from the movies. None of that. It's just been like
it's all like actual legitimate complaints that people should have. The main one, I watched some people playing. It looks boring, dude. And it's one of those. It's stealth oriented, and it's if you get caught doing stealth, you might be able to get away. But it seems like it's just a lot of I'm going to run around in circles for like 5 minutes straight, thinking I'll get away, only to fail at the last minute when the controller locks up.
Honestly, it reminds me of a video game that came out a while ago. I can't remember the name of it, but it doesn't really matter. It was a vampire game, but you couldn't really fight the vampires. Like the premise being the vampires were super, super powerful. So the only thing you can do is avoid the vampires. So you had to like stealth around, but if the vampire saw you, it was over immediately. It was over. And if you even try to fight them, you have people with guns, you can shoot at the vampires. It will barely injure them. I mean, one vampire can easily wipe out your entire party.
Yeah, and at that point, you might as well just make it so when you get caught, they just like scream at you, and then that's the end. So you don't have to like think you're gonna win.
I mean, I hated Splinter Cell for a long time because of the first one. The first one was you got saw, it was over, and I didn't really. It wasn't until the Xbox One where I tried it, and I can't remember which one it was. But if you got seen, it didn't matter. I mean, it mattered because then like, oh, there's that guy, get him. But if you wanted to, you could shoot your way out of most situations. It's not recommended.
And then wind up with no ammo for the next encounter.
Yeah, no ammo, or you just get killed because they're not. You weren't geared up for combat. You're geared up for stealth. You're not walking around with a bunch of armor on.
No, kind of like that Deus Ex game where you could do either stealth or attacking. But if you took stealth, the bosses were almost impossible.
That's true. Yeah,
that was not good game design.
No, you're talking about the one. Like the first one they made with like HD, not like the old ones.
Yeah. The one that they actually came out and they made an apology for it because they gave one studio the stealth things and they gave a different studio the bosses. And I guess kind of like we just talked about shortly ago, they didn't really tell the crews what was going on with the other one.
And that's just so stupid.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't understand why you would do that. It seems very, very unwise.
Well, especially as vocal as gamers are. I mean, I get it. Like, okay, we have a vision, and this is how we want it. But that doesn't sound like a vision thing. That doesn't sound like
that sounds like them trying to save money somehow.
Yeah, but I'll just try and get out faster.
Yeah.
No one has a vision of I want a game where 90% of it is this way and 10% that's very important to beat is another way. I mean, I didn't even like the end of God of War, like the original one. Because the original God of War, you're playing one way through the whole fucking thing, and then finally you get to the main boss, and suddenly it's Mortal Kombat. Like it was literally like the button prompts changed, all of it. You were now doing a 1-on-1 giant battle with Ares, but you weren't.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about that.
Yeah, it's like you weren't doing what you've been doing this whole game.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't super hard. You could beat him. It took you a minute or so.
It didn't go turn to like a giant kaiju battle, basically. Instead of the
it's
standard.
Exactly what happened. Yeah. And it wasn't the same controls. I mean, if they did the same kaiju battle, but then pulled back the camera, so you're still relatively, and then, I don't know, the arena
have the same combat, but make you look bigger in scale.
Right. I mean, or just made the arena the water. Like you pull back and you have like you're kind of the same camera angles you has been, and they just have the little circle for your arena, and you're two guys fighting. But instead, like, nope, Mortal Kombat.
People like these fighting games. I've always take a fighting game at the end of this action game. That'll make people all sorts of excited. And then later on, they use that experience to send Kratos to the actual Mortal Kombat games because I'm pretty sure he's a character on a few of them.
Is it Mortal Kombat? I mean, maybe you're right. Well, he did do the.
I think he did show up on
that the Sony one.
All-Star Battle Royale.
Yeah, I mean that's fine.
Something.
That's an okay game. It's not great.
It was okay. The Smash Brothers knockoff. It was no Smash Brothers, but it was okay.
That's the problem. It was no Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
And
when you're making a game like that, everybody's going to compare you to Smash Brothers.
Yeah, rightfully so, because it was
Yep.
Smash Brothers, like to the point where you're trying to knock them off a platform, and I don't know, it was Smash Brothers, and it was a adequately done. I'm not gonna say it was bad,
No, it
but
wasn't bad, but you're right. It was adequate. Nothing special. It was just enough to make you go like, this makes me want to play Smash Brothers.
yeah. I mean, it is kind of fun to use Kratos to beat the crap out of Parappa the Rapper, but it's still,
Ha. This is true. Punch, kick, it's all. Oh God.
or vice versa. I mean, depending on who behind the controllers, Parappa the Rapper totally wiping the floor of the Kratos. No, Kratos, no.
Another thing Condor Studios wanted for their new game was right now Clay Fighters and Primal Rage were actually pretty popular with their whole claymation stop motion style graphics. They really, really wanted that for Diablo. They thought that would be a really cool look for it, and they were sticking with their guns on that right up until they found out how expensive it was. And then they're like, nope.
And thank God for being costly, because I think that looks stupid.
Yeah. It would be kind of.
Well, I guess it depends on how they did it too.
Yeah, exactly. Because it would have been 2D models.
I think you're right. I think with the right vision and under the right management, it might actually be pretty cool. So I'm PD restricted.
Mainly my brain is going where their brain probably was, and that's stop motion skeletons and how cool they look. All janky and bloop, bloop, Loki.
Yeah, I take it back. If they had done that right, it would be pretty cool. But yeah.
Odds of them doing it right are pretty slim, though, I would guess.
With the technology they had at the time.
Yeah, especially considering this was a very small studio.
Yeah.
I mean, they're working on B-class Super Nintendo games.
You're right. So it's probably for the best.
Yeah, it was. I like the idea.
Vision will take you so far, but money takes you the rest of the way.
Yep. So. And I remember playing Clay Fighters. It wasn't a great playing game, if I recall. I might be wrong on that, but I remember playing it in my adulthood years because I never played it as a kid, and I was like, this is
Clay Fighters?
Clay Fighters, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. How much of the nostalgia is actually correct.
Yeah. And Primal Rage, I recall playing that, and that was really clunky too. So it'd probably just been awful all over. Primal Rage is one where it's dinosaurs fighting.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Okay, yeah. From 1994, made by Atari.
You can get a little bit of health if you ate the people running around screaming down below.
Yep. Good times. So, Brevik and the crew got all these ideas and packaged together and named the game Diablo after the Mount Diablo that he studied in college right next to. Fun fact?
It came back.
It did come back pretty quick too, actually. Another fun fact. Being a Wisconsin boy his whole life, Brevik had no idea Diablo was devil in Spanish. He just thought it was a cool sounding name. It was until after fact somebody was like, oh yeah, that's like devil. And he's like, what? What? His mind just melted at that moment. He's like, there's more than one language? What?
The whitest motherfucker ever. Just turned around what?
Just down in Southern California with his little Wisconsin cheese hat on.
Have you ever met someone of a different race?
Yeah.
What? A different race?
I thought those people were just tanned and just mumbling stuff. No, those are Mexicans.
What?
What? Have you ever heard of a taco? A what?
What? Okay, that's enough.
Yeah. Just David Brevik with a cheese head hat on with a little beanie propeller on the top. And when Condor took all these, basically they took a lot of the high school notes and doodles and scribbles to the meeting with Blizzard because they were kind of an unorganized company at this point. In fact, for a game design, they just took some shots of XCOM and they're like, hey, this is the view we want. They didn't really do up their own thing. They just took screenshots of XCOM and it was like that. These ideas in this format.
Go my minions.
Yes. XCOM, great game though.
XCOM, which one's that?
XCOM, that's the one where you shoot aliens and you can be right next to them and have a 99, you can be right next to them and have a 99% chance of hitting them is all. And miss. Sometimes miss repeatedly.
That game makes me so mad. Again, another one permadeath. But man, just...
Oh, man.
Dude, he's right there. He is 1,000 pounds and round and big. Get him. I missed. Dude,
miss.
You even looking. Like,
And then
how
the very
did you
next
miss?
turn, some grunt on the other side of the map, some grunt alien with his like little pea shooters, just like pew pew pew, and takes out 3 of your guys with 2
Right,
shots.
in the eye. Blah
Yeah.
blah blah. Each one shot per eye.
Yep. Blap blap.
Meanwhile, it's like, and also, is this the best alien they have? No, this alien actually failed out several times.
Right.
In fact, he just came in the bathroom, and this alien pants are still around his waist.
He's from the
fumbled and
remedial
tripped.
class.
Yeah, he fumbled, and as he tripped, he shot. That's the shot that killed your guys.
And that's when morale collapsed for humanity.
Right?
Yeah, permadeath does add something because I once had this sniper in my XCOM crew, the one on the PS3. Her name was Socks. She was there with my team from the entire thing. More kills than anybody in my crew. Very last mission, she gets killed. Broke my heart.
You know, you're right. I mean, yeah, you're right. Because I remember there were times when I was playing XCOM where it was a heartfelt goodbye. The only way that I can get the mission done is you had your dude who's been here from the start. He's wounded. You want to save him, but he's in a position that you really need him to stay in, and he is not going to last. Like he's going to die in the next few moves. Like it's just going to happen.
Yep, you just got to cut them losses. Yeah, either he dies or the rest of you die.
Yeah. If you move him, you're going to fail. So sorry, dude. Like salute, and he's all like, he's one of two things. Either one, he's heroically saluting back. He's like, tell my wife I love her, or he's like, don't leave me, guys, please. Oh my God.
You son of a bitches, don't you leave me behind.
I want to run, but my legs won't move. The arrow in the sky won't point at me.
But Captain, you ain't got no legs. You just got these little stumps waving behind you. Where'd my legs go? Where'd my legs go, Billy?
I hate you all. You ate my legs, didn't you? No.
And that's when it turns out the aliens aren't that bad. They actually collected them up and gave them robotic legs and could run around like Darth Maul with little spider legs.
It's actually, the aliens are actually one big giant version of Truck Coon. Like they're trying to send him to the other world. He doesn't die. He does die and comes back as a hero. I was like, oh, okay.
Those aliens serve an important part in the ecosystem of the universe.
That's right.
They send people to where they need to be in other worlds. Blizzard did like the cut of their jib, as unorganized as it may have been, and they decided to give funding for Condor, who asked them for a cool $300,000 in funding to make this game. At first, Blizzard was pretty hands-off in the whole process, just letting them do what they wanted, like, hey, we like this, do what you want to do. But as time went on, they saw how popular Warcraft and Warcraft 2 was getting for them and how people loved real-time strategy games. They started calling up Condor and be like, hey guys, change this from a turn-based RPG to a real-time action RPG might be a good idea. People are really digging it. The crew said no, especially David Brevik. This was his baby. He was adamantly against it. His whole thought was basically what we were just talking about with XCOM, where turn-based drama and permadeath can make people just stress so much over the little decisions, make them create their own stories in their heads and their own backstories, make you sweat while you do the tiny little micromanaging. Pretty much exactly what we were talking about. So we can relate to David Brevik's feelings on that.
Yes.
They kept poking away at that. David Brevik kept saying no. They kept moving on the game. The Diablo devs also decided on a minimalistic menu setup. They're frustrated with all the previous PC RPGs that they're playing, with long-winded menus to wade through, all sorts of stats to pick at, just so many options. Sometimes it'd take you forever before you'd even get the game started. Might and Magic was this way. That was really bad. It was go into a pub and create your party of 8 people from these long, long lists of stats. To combat this annoyance, they decided to go with what they would call the mom test. They wanted their menus in the game to be so easy to navigate through that even an inexperienced mom could do it. A non-gaming mom. Apparently there was a lot of those back in the 90s trying to play.
So they legit run moms like, hey, look at this. You must look.
That's a good question. Maybe they did. I wonder if they hired those same moms that Mr. T hired for his videos. Traveling hireable moms,
straight from the video. They're like, I need those moms.
Yeah, those are the moms I want to see if they can play a video game. So yeah, they're just trying to make the menus real easy, make the game completely accessible, which is kind of weird because at this time they're also going for the hardcore RPG aspect with permadeath and turn-based. But they wanted it accessible to get in there and die really easily. They took a lot of their inspiration for the menus from the gods of minimalistic menus themselves, ID Software, or id. Is it id? ID? id Software. Think Doom and Quake. Remember how basic those menus were?
No.
Man, did you ever play Doom and Quake?
Doom, yes.
Okay. Their menus,
Quake.
very minimalistic. Literally, you fired it up and it was like start game, difficulty, and boom, you're in.
Yep, you're right.
Yep. No fuss, no muss. Loaded real quick, too. The one exception for simplicity they made was with the mini-map. They based the whole mini-map off of the video game Dark Forces from the Star Wars universe, where he plays Kyle Katarn, a mercenary working on behalf of the Rebel Alliance. Discover the Dark Trooper Project. Ooh, exciting.
I like that one.
Yeah, did you play it?
You could be Dark Side.
Could you? Nice.
Yep.
I never actually played that one.
I think all those you could. Like all the ones, the first person ones, you could go Dark Side, because that's the only way you can get Force Lightning. You couldn't get Force Lightning if you were a good guy.
No, that's true.
Which
were you a Jedi in that game?
Kyle Katarn? Yeah.
Oh, okay. My notes just have him as a mercenary, not a Jedi.
Well, he becomes like, it's one of those things where he's like, oh yeah, I'm a mercenary, but by the way, sometimes I look at something funny and things happen.
Did you see me summon that thing from across the room? That wasn't a Force thing. It was just a coincidence.
Let's see. Yeah, he was the main character. He was a bunch of stuff. Like he was in Dark Forces, and then what else he was in? And he's absolutely a Jedi.
Neat. I guess I just never collected his Jedi trading card like most people did.
His Jedi trading cards.
Yeah.
He has not entered like the current like Star Wars universe though.
Okay, so he's non-canonical at this point.
Yeah, he's a Legends character.
Gotcha.
Let's see. He appears in several video games and books. And several books.
Okay, he was really big writing about him back in the day. They're like, "Hey, this is a character that'll be around forever, around forever."
Forces. He was in Star Wars Dark Forces, Star Wars Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2, Star Wars Jedi Knight Mysteries of the Sith, Star Wars Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast, which was awesome, Star Wars Jedi Knight and Jedi Academy. So, and man, some of those games have the bestest ever, like FMV. Just gloriously awful. I mean, everyone just like, I'm here for the cheese. I'm gonna chew all the scenery.
Everybody hammered up like it's 1999. And how. But yeah, I saw pictures of the minimap, and yeah, the minimap in Diablo looks just like the minimap from Dark Forces. The little line art minimap. All the while during development, Blizzard kept gently suggesting the real-time approach more and more. And as they sort of poked and prodded Condor Studios, more and more of the staff was like, you know what? This might be a good idea. Maybe we should do real-time strategy or real-time action. And sensing the shift or the winds of change coming around, Brevik decided it was only fair to take a vote and see what happened. He lost. Turns out eventually he was the only one wanting to stay turn-based. And even though he went along with the idea, he was kind of pissed about it. Felt like his baby was being taken from him. He was going to eliminate all the challenge. Yeah, basically, like, I don't like this. I'll just do it because you made me do it. Meh. That's my David Brevik impression.
He's there in the corner, all sad and sulking. Yeah. Now, of course, I'm glad this is actually down to prosperity. He actually did that because he could. Oh no, I was down for this the whole time. I don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
He's like swimming in his money pool. He's like, yeah, man, I was totally my idea to do that.
Yep. It was my idea all along, and it was a great idea. Pull the essentially like a George Lucas thing. Be like, that's a great idea. I'm glad I thought of it.
Because all ideas are my ideas.
Yep. So Brevik sat down one Saturday and started recoding the game to work as real-time action. He got everything set up, and in his own words, he clicked on a skeleton and watched his warrior slowly go over there and take down the skeleton with one hit. And apparently, this made him jump out of his seat and scream, "This is it! This is what's going to make the game great!" He actually said that's basically what he did. I don't know if that he actually like jumped out of his seat and was super excited that way, but that's what he claims. Apparently, it doesn't take much to convince him of just killing one skeleton.
Like, oh my god.
Yeah. Oh my god, he walked over there and did it. And it wasn't turn-based. This is mind-blowing.
He did the thing.
Yeah.
Say it.
Yep, he did the thing. My coding was successful. Yay. So now that you decide you want to do that, it is time to recode the entire game to be real-time action. This would delay progress some, which was pretty bad for them at the time because they were running out of money fast. Turns out $300,000 is not that much to make a game on. Especially when you got to pay a big old amount of staff and pay, rent and for equipment and everything else. In fact, one of the numbers he said was with the $300K that they had, they only had enough money to pay everybody in the studio $20,000 a year. And that was before paying all the rent and stuff.
Yeesh.
Yeah. I mean, 20 grand was more in 1995, but it wasn't that much.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean,
but yeah. Still barely anything. So apparently if you're making a game back in 1995, 96, ask for more than $300,000.
Oh, I'll be sure to note that.
That is a life lesson.
Going forward, if I ever make a game in 1990, whatever.
Yeah. So to make ends meet and get back some money to continue on Diablo, Condor Studios decided to go publish NFLPA, a football game intended to be released for the 3DO M2, the second of the 3DO system. Fun fact, the original 3DO cost $699 back in 1993, the equivalent of almost $1,300 nowadays.
Equivalent to a house.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, yeah, $699 back in 93. You could buy a house, 2 cars, and have enough money left over for a trolley down to the movie theater.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And now that house is worth $2 million.
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah. And also, 3DO M2s never released, but sometimes you can find them in little, mall kiosks and whatnot from the era. Apparently, pretty big collector's find. I don't know if you can actually do anything with them, but you'd be like, hey, look, I got 3DO M2. Woo!
Hey, rich guys, look at this. Who wants it?
Yeah, pretty much. If some of those things go for so much. Well, I sent you the link to that one Nintendo 64 cartridge. Yeah. $8,500. Kiosk collector one. Yes. If only we knew now what we knew then. Wait, strike that and reverse it.
Right.
So, this job netted them a cool $1 million from 3DO. However, they were still kind of hurting for cash because this money didn't naturally come all at once. It came in little chunklets. So they were still struggling with money. Then Blizzard, still printing their own money like motherfuckers, decided to call up Condor and be like, hey, you just want us to buy you out? We really like this Diablo thing and we have some ideas for you. Let's just buy you out and you can become part of us. Condor Studios said, yes, please, for the love of God, do this. We are bad with money. Or at least we're having troubles with money. And thus was formed Blizzard North out of the ashes of Condor Studios.
And they were absorbed. Like, no good.
Yep, pretty much. Just
slams to the doors.
Just like cell absorbing companies. Blizzard was just going around whipping out their tail and sucking up studios. Also, side note, Blizzard North, when they came out, their logo has ice and it's, the Blizzard, the logo looks cold, little snowflakes come around, icicles hanging off of it. So I always assumed the place was in Canada. It is not in Canada. It's in in San Francisco, not that far north. Yeah. In fact, it's only considered north from the original Blizzard, which is San Mateo, just a few miles south. So that's kind of lame. I was like, hey, Blizzard North, they must be up north somewhere. No, they are not. During this buying process,
Iceland, like Greenland, Iceland.
Yeah, exactly. The 3DO company got wind of the sale of Condor, and they actually really wanted to buy Condor as well for their own uses. So 3DO actually offered the Condor Studios pretty much the same deal, but twice as much money, which Condor decided against because they kind of, I guess, saw the writing on the wall thinking this 3DO company's probably not going to be around a whole lot longer. And yeah, they were right. So now, Condor has become Blizzard North. So we have Blizzard Studios and Blizzard North. But to try to make it easier to differentiate, I'm just going to call Blizzard North the Diablo team.
Okay.
Yeah, because that way I'm not like Blizzard North and Blizzard. And then we wind up saying Blizzard too many times. And that might actually summon a Blizzard Goblin. And you don't want Blizzard Goblins around. Those are urine stains you do not want to deal with.
It'll be pretty interesting to deal with a Blizzard Goblin in the middle of summer. Or
yeah, they'll show up any time of the year. It just depends on how thick their fur is all.
Right.
Yeah, that's all it is. Yep. And don't let them whiz on your carpet too. Their urine attracts spiders. Don't know why. And that's it for part 1 on Diablo. In our next episode, we will talk about the problems that BattleNet had early on in its life, what you do not want the Matrix to download into your brain. We tell you the story of the real Deckard Cain, and we talk a little bit about the Diablo games themselves. Check back in next week and please subscribe to Oft Off Topic. This is where the ending jingle goes. This is where the ending jingle goes. I don't know if we need one. I don't know if we'll get one. But if we do, then here is where it goes.